A little bit about the company. So Pendo is a platform that works with managing analytics of your software. So we install inside a software platform, and we collect full analytics on customer usage, different features, functionality, all of that kind of stuff, and then marry that up with in-application messaging. So essentially think about it as being able to understand behavior and then drive behavior by talking to your customers through the application itself. So I've been taking notes throughout the day, and it's been kind of interesting to me. We've been talking a lot about, we started off with top of the funnel and tofu and bofu, and then we got into a lot of ISV and partnership conversations, and now we're talking about the API. And we really finished that one up with an interesting question that is kind of where I feel like we intersect with a lot of this conversation, and that was, do you understand the product usage of your partnerships or inside the product to help you understand who you partner with, what your customers are looking for? And that's really where we come into the equation. And as he said in my introduction, I was the formerly CEO and co-founder of a company called Magnus Health, and actually used Pendo there. And when I exited that company, got a call from Pendo because I was such a big user asking if I wanted to come evangelize the product. So it made a lot of sense to me. Here are a couple of our customers. These are folks we work with. We range from small, medium businesses to very large companies that use us. And here's how we work. So we install into the product with a single snippet of code. And in that snippet, we're going to collect behavior as well as metadata. So we're going to watch what all the customers do on the product, as well as information that you can push us to understand behavior, like what package they're on, what plan they're on, what company they're with, that kind of stuff. And then this information comes to us, we process the raw data, and then we give it back to you in a user interface that you can segment that information, you can target it, you can build funnel analysis off of it to really understand how they're utilizing your product. But then you can communicate with those customers in the application. So if somebody's never used a button before, you can create an application message that says, hey, have you ever tried this? Or if there's an upgrade opportunity for free trial users, you can actually walk them through that in the application itself, teaching them how to use the product and what that's all about. So one of the things we look at that is also very relevant to the conversations today as far as how we grow in the small and medium business market, who we target for partnerships, and what our communication is out to the market is really starting to understand the breadth, depth, and frequency of our users. And so what this allows us to do internally when we eat our own dog food is to really start to comprehend who do we need to be talking to, what's the message, and then how do we tailor that message and through what channels. So we look at breadth as who are our users, both individuals within the companies that we sell to and the companies themselves. And so this really, as you can see, start to see, this helps you understand, well, who are going to be our best partners down the road. And then depth, what parts of the product are they using? So what kind of communications do I want to have to these potential customers? And then frequency, how often are they in the product? So if I'm communicating to one persona, is my conversation around, you cannot live without us? And if I'm talking to another persona, is it, we're going to give you the metrics you need once a month for your board meeting? And all of this type of data that you can actually harvest from within your product really helps you have these conversations, both inside the product as well as external. So some of our customers, different use cases that we're looking at, definitely we see a lot of focus on things such as onboarding, walking a user through the product, training them in the application themselves. But then we start getting into things such as building brand awareness within our own customer base. I thought it was really interesting in the communication this morning that how many customers they have using Bitly on free trials that they're not communicating to and that aren't converting. And that's where when you're in the small, medium business side, you have that valuable conversation that you can have and you can have it on your own platform while your users are in there to really try to help you convert them and have a very relevant conversation with them. And then also just learning how and understanding what product to build. So we talked about API calls in the last presentation. With limited resources, oftentimes your API is considered just an extension of the product. And really, what do we know? What should we be exposing through the API? And sometimes that goes into what are our customers using the most. But very oftentimes it's where are we falling short. So where can we expose our API to a partner to really fill in some gaps? And the bigger question then is, well, how do I know? Where are customers falling short? How do I get that data? So I want to walk through a little case study. This is actually a case study from my old company that got us into using the product, but it really kind of walks through how we ended up understanding and using data to decide actually who to partner with, as well as how to build product. And customer insights are all around you. We take a very technical approach to it, which I love. But I've got 4 boys, if anybody's interested. They range from 1 to 20 years old. And product insights being all around you. We had a Nerf Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sword on the table last year at Christmas time. And so this is a product, right? And we're trying to understand how different people interact with it. Well, my 20-year-old saw that sword as an opportunity to pick it up and strangle his 9-year-old brother with it like this. So that's what that product meant to him. That's not our target market. We're not looking to partner with somebody to drive that kind of customer behavior. My 9-year-old picked up the sword and swung it around and had the best time with it. Perfect target market. Didn't need to change what we're doing at all. And my 1-year-old picked up and started chewing on it and crawling away across the room. So you got the same product with extremely different use cases based on customer behavior and what they look at that product and how they're going to consume it. So with this case study, my last company was a student medical record company, so it was electronic medical records for schools. And we had this, this is kind of our customer profile, 300 schools. We had 3 different products that we would sell in that essentially had about 8 modules and 2 mobile applications. And we had an extremely seasonal business with nurses using the product, parents using the product, and students using the product. So you couldn't get any different numbers of personas that were in and using it, some very infrequently, some this was their life. And we had this issue. So we were a small company. We had limited resources on the technology side, and we had a product problem, and we didn't know which one to solve. So it was essentially we were looking at our immunization module versus our prescriptions module. Immunizations, the most requested feature on the product. Everybody was asking for it. Salespeople would say, this is why we win deals, because we can have this conversation. It was market drivers, and then yet when we got into the product in our database, it was the least used module of the product. And we could not figure out why. And then on the flip side of this, we have the most used module in the product, which was prescription management and distribution. It had the highest service utilization internal within the company, which was kind of a problem that we wanted to reduce, but B, it was also showing us that there was a lot of consumption. There were some market drivers there, but then it was the least requested product feature. So around that time, we started using Pendo, and we started doing analytics on the product. So we dropped it into these 2 modules. And we did a segment feature usage analysis on our medication administration tool. And what we found there is there was huge trends of usage across 29 customers. So we had 300 customers in the system, and this looked like the most widely used module, but what actually was happening was they were using it so much that it actually threw our numbers off. And we thought we needed to be spending a lot of development resources, communication, partnership strategy, all on this medication module that we had. Then we did a funnel analysis on our immunization side to try to see how our customers were using it. And in a 4-step process, we had that was the beginning of kind of installing it over the couple months that we did this. 262 schools started the process the way we designed it, 0 finished. So we had a huge product issue from the development side, but what we started to learn was what our concept was of who our partnership should have been with and where we needed to focus marketing was completely wrong. And it was an internal product issue because customers weren't getting to the right place based on bad design versus what actually we should have been doing in the marketplace. So what we ended up doing is with our medication reconciliation, we used in-app messaging to train those customers better. And what we saw was, high service volume actually went down because those 23 customers trained themselves in the application. We onboarded them in the application, and then we did some slight feature redesign. On the immunization, we completely redesigned the product because obviously there was a big gap there. But in addition to that, we started using in-application messaging to train them on how to use it better. But this is where the market impact really started. We changed our entire strategy. So we went after partnerships on the immunization side, and we integrated with the top 2 immunization registries out there, whereas that wasn't even on our roadmap before that. We got an ISV partnership with Pearson, which is one of the largest student information vendors out there in the country, because they didn't have an immunization module. So all of a sudden, this became a key component of our strategy. We built our API around it, and focused on data in and data out all around that one single thing. We also increased our marketing around immunization so we could follow trends much easier, looking around immunization data than we could around prescriptions to students and to adolescents, because that wasn't as much trending in the marketplace. So essentially, to bring this all full circle, we did this analysis looking at these 2 products with an in-application analytics tool. And it really changed kind of how we approached this problem of deciding where to spend our resources. That's obviously a huge thing for small companies. But B, then where to invest our additional resources in growing our partnerships, who to integrate with, and then how to invest in our API. And so that's kind of a high level of Pendo and kind of a personal case study of how it's used and can be used in kind of the conversations and context of what we're talking about today. I don't know if we have any time for any questions.
One question, Dave. Grab me off the break.